Hello everyone, welcome to Maritime Software Hub, the People Podcast. In this season finale, I'm really excited to be joined by my colleague and former dry cargo shipbroker, Matthew Taylor. In this conversation, we're going to run through Matt's experience working as a shipbroker, telling you a bit about what the day-to-day kind of life was in that role. And certainly towards the sort of latter end of his spell in shipbroking, we're going to dive into sort of how technology kind of influences kind of his position and I guess the role as a broker. And then we're also going to kind of shift over a bit towards kind of recruitment and now how he's finding his new role here at Cordell Beaumont. So my name is Callum Beaumont, the founder of Cordell Beaumont, which is the digital shipping recruitment agency and the host of this podcast. And Matt, very much welcome to your first airing on the show and also to our team. So please, can you give us a quick lengthy intro, if you prefer, of your background and who you are?
Thank you very much, Callum. Yeah. So my name is Matthew Taylor, as you said, and I used to be a shipbroker for around 13 years, but it goes a bit deeper than that. I'm actually lucky enough to be from a family of shipbrokers, essentially. So my father, my uncle, my brother are all shipbrokers on the sale and purchase side. So I've sort of been surrounded by shipping all my life. Basically, my father and uncle were directors at Clarkson's, and my brother equally started his own company and is now working for families. But yeah, so I've basically my whole life has been shipping orientated and essentially just been surrounded by shipping every day.
Yeah, well, I mean, really interesting, and obviously something I can completely relate to. Very similar. It's quite rare that you get people that kind of have similar kind of heritages in the shipping space, and you kind of go into that, you kind of follow their footpath. So, what was it that kind of obviously, I know what it's like. You know, I kind of pretty much grew up with my grandfather. I lived with my grandfather for many years, and I know what it's like living with brokers and when you're a kid and things, and you can't always get out to sort of do things when you need to because they're on their phone or something happens at the last minute. You must have obviously grown up with that. So what was it like in those early days growing up as a kid in a kind of broking family?
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. It very much was obviously now we're in a new era of hybrid working and there's a bit more flexibility in the world. But back in the day, so to speak, when it was my father's era, it was office 5 days a week and essentially on the phone 7 days a week and after hours during the night dealing with Japan or wherever it might be. But it's a good point you've raised there because I'm the youngest of three siblings. So I was fortunate enough that obviously my father was sort of later in his career as I was growing up, and he decided to leave Clarkson's and set up his own company. And actually, we moved out to Cyprus and lived in Limassol. And I went to school out there. I think I was from about 12 or 13 up until 16, I think 17. And Dad set up his own company, so it was really quite cool actually because the lifestyle changed. Dad was at home a lot more. We spent a lot of time together. After school I would be in the office with Dad, answering the phone, speaking to clients from the age of about 13 really. So basically a receptionist after after school hours. But it was brilliant. I even joined him on some lunches and dinners. So I sort of became, I guess, hands-on involved in the industry quite early. As a teenager, I was, say, speaking to ship owners daily, really. And actually, even as a child, was very fortunate. We had a couple of holidays on one of Dad's main clients on their yacht around the Greek islands with them. And it was priceless memories, but equally really good from that age to sort of build these relationships with these sort of clients, but that actually have become family friends.
Yeah, no, it's a really quite a life change, really. A real kind of like at that age when you're sort of 13 in your mid to late teens. You got in the UK we have GCSEs exams and things. So to change country, to relocate at that age, it must have been Obviously, it sounds like it was great fun and everything. But what was it like actually kind of starting a new school, new language, obviously? How did you find it?
Yeah, that's another good question, but it uh, it's one of those situations where at the time, especially as a teenager, the grass is always greener, and you miss, obviously I miss my friends, back in the UK. Um, but very quickly, it just became the norm, and very multicultural. I went to an international school, so a variety of personalities, and I've made some lifelong friends who some might be Cypriot, some actually were expats as well. Parents in insurance or even shipping, and we're going through a sort of similar transition. But yeah, it's kind of, now looking back, I'm so grateful that we did that move, because it's given me so much life experience and exposure. I got to spend more time with my parents, because, well, and essentially my dad, because obviously he was now working, sort of local to where I went to school. So as I mentioned, I could go to the office, and I did. And then, after work, it's sunny, right? Sunny Cyprus. You can go on your bikes, or you go for a swim, and whatever it might be. And there's more of a life. And I'm really grateful now, looking back, to have that opportunity and to say that I did it, and and to understand the culture. I genuinely feel like I have now Greek in my blood, because I've lived in Cyprus, and I'm very, very, very grateful for it.
Yeah, no, really important. Nowhere near kind of compared to what you did. I did around 9 months living in Pasalimani in 2006, and it was a similar kind of thing. It was my kind of industry placement year at university. I was studying in Plymouth, and yeah, I lived there, and I spent about a month or so with my grandfather's ship owner clients, essentially kind of in their offices, learning a little bit about kind of their kind of overall kind of how they man their crews and what the kind of office environment is like, sort of operations, dealing with charterers and brokers, that type of thing. So it was a great experience, and I feel the same. I still feel very kind of somehow connected to Greece, even though I was only there for a short time. But my whole life and my whole career, I've always spoken to a number of people within shipping, and also obviously when I was in recruitment and started in recruitment, and at Clarkson's in particular, you'd have so many people from obviously Greece, other like the Netherlands or Denmark, all over the world, kind of speaking to you about roles and wanting to get into broking and that type of thing. So yeah, it's great you've had that exposure from a young age. But so how come you didn't go into, when you started in broking, into sale and purchase? How come you chose chartering?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I'm the youngest of three. My sister is not in shipping, but my brother is. He's obviously older than I am, by sort of nearly 6 years, and yeah, he sort of was the first to go into it. Very successful. I'm very proud of him. He's a very, very good broker. But essentially, by the time it came to me sort of delving into shipbroking and really making that decision of, this is what I want to do, I felt like that market was covered, and I didn't want to compete against my brother. And I'm also, I enjoy the buzz of a quicker deal, whereas sale and purchase is more project based. Whereas on the chartering side, on the spot side, you could wake up one morning, you go, I don't know what ship I'm going to fix today or what cargo, and then you come home that evening, and out of nowhere, you've fixed a ship. And I like that. It's almost like trading, but obviously less risky. So there was two sides to it. I think my personality suited a bit more of a quicker pace, rather than sort of projects and that kind of thing, with which predominantly S&P, and equally, Craig's got a good handle on that market, and I thought, well, if we can work together, essentially, and we did, and Craig would quite often pass me clients or invite me for meetings and lunches and dinners and things to meet his clients, because we can work together. So between the two of us, we can build or carry on the brand name, essentially.
Yeah, no, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, as you say, yes, sale and purchase is much more of a long-term kind of play, and really you kind of very much in the hands of the market, and you don't want to sort of try and encourage your client to buy a vessel or something when you know maybe in 3 months' time the market might completely drop off and they lose a fortune. So it really is kind of playing the long game, and that's why it does appeal to certain types of characters. Okay, so with regards to obviously the role of a dry cargo broker in particular, we're going to focus on, obviously it's your main kind of experience. So what was it like? So let's say day to day when you started off as a kind of a trainee, obviously you had a bit of a head start because you already know the fundamentals from the family and you've been watching it for years. But what was it like in the early days, and how did you kind of climb up the ladder, so to speak, in the broking world?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, you know, I did have a bit of a head start, but essentially I started. I had my pick of desks, and I don't mean that to sound arrogant, and I'll explain why. Because when I joined Gibson's from university, I was very lucky to get offered a place there, and essentially it was a 3-month program where the first month was in sort of research, the second month was in operations, and the third month was to be determined. It was a broken desk, but you know, and the point of that was basically for me to go around and, you know, just mingle with the other, you know, my colleagues in different departments, get to know which field and that kind of thing. But I basically gravitated towards dry cargo. You know, predominantly a lot of my the background, my father's clients were dry owners, dry cargo sort of ship owners. Obviously they've now diversified since, but you know, I understood a bit more about the dry market, and I had sort of contacts already, and the team were brilliant as well. So the third month I sat on the Panamax desk on dry cargo, and thankfully they extended, and you know, and the story continued. But it's tough. It's tough being a broker at any level, to be honest with you, just different types of challenges. But obviously, when you first start, you know, just getting your head around the sheer volume of emails, even, you know, it could take until you really get into a flow of understanding the fundamentals of the market and essentially what you're looking out for. You would spend, or I would spend, up until 11 or 12 just going through the overnight emails, and then you're playing catch up. You know, and essentially there's no one can teach this. It just comes over time that once you sort of realize what's important, what's an important email, what's not, and you know, if that's one of your clients or potential clients, and you can start to sort of skip through things. And I think the other side that you know, nowadays, well, I suppose we had it then as well, not that old, is the language. You know, there's all sorts of it's a different sort of shorthand language that you have to pick up. You know, even in, you know, when you're negotiating terms and bits and bobs, there, you know, there's abbreviations to a lot of things that you know, you have to understand what it means, literally what it means, it stands for, and then B, actually how that translates into real life, and what it actually means in the wider scope. So it was a learning curve. I was very lucky to basically we were panel brokers for Tata Steel, for example. We had the desk had some sort of really good main accounts, and it was a small team, and they've become lifelong friends actually, and most of, well, some of which have now retired, but they were very happy to take me under their wing as a trainee. Um, and just gave me the time. And because we had the cargoes, I think we were a panel broker. I think there were 3 on the panel at the time for Tata Steel. But it gave me a good bite into the market. So rather than just going straight into the deep end, being a competitive broker and chasing around market cargoes, and that, you know, everyone's in and everyone's quoting, we had a 1 in 3 chance of fixing that cargo. So it was a good opportunity for me to actually fix some ships and learn. And it was, you know, it was a steep learning curve. And I think anyone that's been a broker would agree, and I'm sure you will, Callum, that, you know, you learn from your mistakes, but you have to make them essentially to develop as a broker. And, you know, unfortunately, you can't be taught everything, and there's certain things that you learn on the job. And in fact, most of it you learn on the job, but you just have, where I was lucky, good colleagues around you to sort of steer you when these problems start coming up, to steer you with a few answers and a few, you know, methods behind, or solutions behind, sort of solving whatever it might have been.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Okay, and just perhaps people that are not so familiar with with the role of a chartering broker or any kind of broker in particular. Let me know, what was your day to day look like? What were the type of people that you would be speaking to on the phone regularly? Kind of decisions you made. You mentioned obviously lots of emails there. What type of things were you sifting through? Just to give a bit of an overview.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, essentially, cargo's king. So, you try and talk to as many charterers as possible, but it's not just a machine gun blast of trying to get clients. It's like recruitment, very much so. It's a relationship game. So it's
Mm,
about picking essentially clients that you connect with, and you don't know until you meet them. You phone them every day, and that's part of the day to day. Essentially, is when you walk in, you check your emails on your phone on the way to work, so you have that covered already. So we've now skipped past the point of 11 a.m., 12 p.m. as a trainee going through the overnights. We're now at the point where the emails are covered on the training, and you're ready to rock and roll. But it basically would be getting on the phone to you. You'd have a core sort of two, three, four charterers, and maybe a slightly larger list of ship owners, because of course they're not necessarily going to be active every day. Whereas you'd like to hope the charterers are going to have a cargo once a week or whatever it might be. But you'd call. It's a phone industry. It's a relationship industry. So essentially the morning would begin if you see anything on the overnight emails, that fresh cargoes, fresh inquiry, or you might get a WhatsApp or a Skype saying that we've got this fresh cargo from A to B. You'd quote it, and you do your searches on the systems and find the ships and ring up your owners and ask your colleagues if they're speaking to a certain owner with a ship in position to kindly call that owner and quote them. And then once you've done that, it's about ringing people up and having a chat and seeing if there's anything you can help with. If they're going to have a cargo coming up, if they're going to have a ship coming up, or when the next ship is coming up, for example, and just keeping an eye out. And then from that, it sort of starts to all merge into one, and you start connecting the dots. But yeah,
mm.
it's very much like recruitment. It's relationships game. You talk to people, you try and get on with as many people as you can, and yeah, and build that friendship.
Yeah, and you're mainly, when you're talking to, let's say on the ship owner side, it's mainly the chartering managers, I imagine, the in-house kind of. Is there other people you speak to, operators, or I imagine
Yes.
it's mainly.
No, so it's a mixed bag. So it would have been quite a few operators. So essentially, an operator is someone who, obviously, I know you know, but in case anyone listening doesn't, an operator is someone that will charter a ship in for a length of time and also book cargoes in on a contract basis, and essentially play one off the other and either put a ship in the market if the market's going up, or put the cargo in the market. And that's essentially what an operator does. I would speak to operators, ship owners, and depending on who it was, with some of the ship owners, I would speak to both the ship owner himself as well as the chartering manager, purely because of my history. It would be essentially a client that would have been a family client. So I've known him for many years. So I'd speak to both, and then otherwise it'd be the chartering manager, in sort of separate companies, and obviously operations. You're always,
Yeah.
when you fix a ship, you hope not, but there's normally a problem or an issue somewhere down the line, and you have to get involved. And so you'd be speaking to the operators and trying to solve potential problems, or stopping a problem before it arises, really is the name of the game. And then on the chartering side, they're basically trading houses. So you're speaking
Yeah.
not to the trader, but to the chartering manager, who is obviously then internally dealing with the trader, and booking in and buying and selling cargoes, or commodities. But yeah.
Cool. And were you quite involved with like all different terms in the charter party, kind of back and forth negotiating them, or did you have like your team members doing that with you?
No, that was me. So very much, that's part of the role as a broker. Is you're an unofficial lawyer sometimes. With you really have to know your details in contracts, and like wording, commas, and anything can change the meaning of a sentence. You really have to be switched on. And if you're trading, for example, and you've got a ship owner and a cargo, and you're negotiating terms, and you're going backwards and forwards, you might get one sort of counter coming from one side, and you sort of look at it and go, how is that any different. And then you spot a comma, and they've changed ever so slightly, just a comma in a paragraph, but it then changes the whole meaning of it. And so you become an expert. I mean, it's quite funny because when I started as a trainee, the market was terrible. It just had basically peaked and plummeting, and so it was a bad market. But because of that, I became an expert in bunker clauses, because that was the only way, essentially, there was any money to be made for a ship owner, was to really negotiate a bunker clause. So that the daily hire might have only been a couple of grand a day in dollars, but the bunker clause is where they might be able to just get a bit more profit. So I became a semi-expert in bunker clauses, and then as the market changes, there's different focuses, and then it's a booming market, it's flying. Charterers are less likely to to push back on terms. They just need to get the ship in before, if they wait another day, they might have to pay another $10,000. So you do have to know, your stuff, and that's your job, essentially, is you do the contracts, you negotiate the contracts, and execute it.
Okay, no, awesome, thank you. So now, I mean, obviously, in more recent years, you've joined Cordell Beaumont in literally this year, start of 2024. So in the last, let's say, 5 years or so of your shipbroking kind of career and roles, how have you seen technology kind of emerge in your either in the business you're working in? Obviously, some broking houses are going to adopt tech more than others, I'd say, but just in general, what's been your kind of your perspective on tech in chartering, shipbroking?
Yeah, it's obviously it's played a massive impact, and essentially any tech that's been introduced, for example, I don't know, sort of charter calculate, voyage calculation. So if you're trying to calculate the returns for a ship owner, if you're, so there's two just to go back a step, there's two types of fixtures. You can fix on time charter basis, which is a rate per day, or voyage basis, which is a rate per ton, so on the commodity side. Now, if you're fixing either or, but you want to work out what the equivalent is, so if you're fixing a voyage, so a rate per ton, and I don't know, say it's $17 per ton, you want to work out what that translates to in time charter, so $10,000 a day or a daily hire. The tools that have come out to help with this have significantly improved. I mean, when I first started, the chaps that very kindly taught me, it was almost a old school back of a on a piece of paper and calculating it, and obviously you still need to know how it works. Whereas fast forward 10 years, and you tap in a couple of bits of information onto the system, and hey presto, you've got your answer. Even things like the technology being able to give you live sort of bunker prices for, again, like say for that example, so you don't even have to then search somewhere else to find bunker prices. You one click of the button and select your port, and hey presto, you've got your live bunker price. And even port disbursement costs. So essentially the cost involved with loading and unloading a ship in a port. Obviously, it varies from port to port all over the world, and it changes as well. Just because it was X amount last year doesn't mean it's the same now. But again, technology has allowed us to, rather than when I first started, you'd send, if it was a Friday afternoon, or it was Monday afternoon, it might have been a bit quiet. I'd send off a load of emails to the regular ports that we knew we had business from, to the agents there, just to get an updated cost on, say, a Panamax ship or a Supramax or a Capesize, just to update our files. Very old school.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now, obviously, we still need to do that sometimes, but the technology allows us to essentially, again, just click that button, and hey presto, it's got a pretty much up to date disbursement cost. So yeah, it's advanced a lot. I think on the broking side, probably not as much as obviously with the ship owning and management side. That's advanced, miles. But on the broking side, because again, you can only get to a certain point before you still need to just pick up the phone and talk to someone. Obviously, technology can't mimic that. But yeah, the sort of email functions and the sort of searching and AIS tracking, that's a very good one.
Yeah,
That
I was going to say that.
it's a bit of a secret, a bit of a secret within the broking world that we do track ships. So if an owner says, "Oh, I've got nothing coming up," they have, because you've been tracking their fleet on
Yeah.
AIS, and it's a bit of a little secret into some of the tools that brokers do use. But yeah, the tracking side is can be very useful as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, having visibility, literally, of all the different vessels in different ports and where the routes are on now, and you have the ETA there, so you have a good idea of what might be
Exactly.
available in 2 weeks. It's really powerful. But the problem is, though, obviously the ship owners and the charterers though themselves are obviously subscribing to those tech platforms as well. So
Yeah.
the transparency is getting better in a sense, because everyone knows, okay, actually there's going to be X amount of ships in that region.
Yeah.
Whether they can actually translate what that data might mean, so you still need the broker to say, okay, cool, well, because there's so many ships available in that area, that means the rate's probably going to go down a little bit because there's too much supply or whatever, I don't know. It just shows that the technology is having a huge impact across broking and the decisions that make. So it's great that you've already been seeing that, and you did from the last, yeah, it sounds like 3 or 4 years plus or so, and more. So awesome. All right, so let's fast forward a little bit. So from now, and anything else you'd like to say with regards to technology in terms of broking or shipping?
No, not really. I guess just essentially, I mean, to summarize it just makes the process a lot quicker and easier. And I guess that's the point of technology, is to be, accurate, but to give accurate results quicker than what it would have taken. But no, aside from that, nothing more.
Yeah, I think if I was go back to broking now, I don't know how it would impact sale and purchase as much. I think it's obviously more about, I guess, the quality of the vessels, like more technology advancing the actual ship itself and the shipyards and that type of thing. But I think, yeah, the flow of data and things like Sedna and Vessel, all these different sort of email platforms, as you said before. Our big part of our day to day was just reading through the emails. One of them were either purchase inquiries or vessels that are available for sale, and it's just deciphering what the terminology means and that type of thing. So
Yeah.
the platforms now, I'm sure, dramatically improve that. I mean, I haven't seen an S&P email for years, but I'm sure it has advanced a lot. Okay, so let's move on now. So what on earth drove you to sort of consider leaving broking and then coming and joining Cordell Beaumont and recruitment as a career?
It's a very good question.
I'm still asking yourself
I'm
that.
still asking myself that. No, it's I wanted to. I mean, okay, the broking side. I just feel like we're going. There's a lot of brokers out there for a sort of a sort of small circle of clients. And actually, when we're talking about technology, some of the clients now just award their business via tenders, which is just done online, which the owner will do themselves. So you don't need a broker and you don't need to negotiate terms, because by putting a bid onto the online platform, you're accepting their terms, essentially. Without going into too much detail. Yeah, and I just felt like I wanted to capitalize on all of my experience, hands-on experience, not even just from the broking, but from day dot, really, and being surrounded by maritime all my life, quite literally. I wanted to capitalize on that. But I like talking to people, and I like helping people and building relationships. And I think recruitment, maritime recruitment, essentially ticks all those boxes. I have some very good clients and great relationships, and speak regularly, and you have that dialogue and that contact. But fundamentally, when it gets down to the crunch of understanding why why there might be a vacancy, and what the business does. I understand, like you do, Callum, with your background. I think it's a bit of a USP for us, because we actually do understand why this technology is being sold and why it's being bought by owners, for example. And we can actually talk the language and understand the processes behind, or the reasoning behind this on a macro scale. So yeah, I mean, that's fundamentally why I sort of made the move. You know, I think the opportunity is great, and you know, it enables me to, you know, to sort of push forward on everything to date that, you know, I've learned throughout my career.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense, and it's funny how it's kind of come full circle. So I remember when we were both obviously worked at Clarkson's for a similar time, well, same
Yeah,
time at one point, and I remember helping you guys. I can't remember who the hire was, but it was definitely one of the Panamax, I think, trainees back then. And I remember speaking to you and the guys there and stuff, and getting on really well. And it's just amazing that, like, I don't know how many years ago that was,
yeah,
eight
and here
years
we
ago or
are.
whatever, something like that. Now we're here together. So it's really good, really
Yeah,
interesting. And I do. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are other recruitment agencies out there that obviously have got people that come from Maritime, so we're not unicorns. But certainly, I think that, like, we're growing a business where people can really kind of value that heritage of our sort of backgrounds, but also just the sort of hopefully how we come across. We're genuine. We really do care about our space, and most importantly, the people that we work with. So in terms of our team, but also the candidates we speak to day in day out, we know that, like, we may have a conversation with someone, they're not looking right now, but in 6 months, 3 years, whenever, the ideal role for them could pop up. And it's just like keeping in contact with those regular points of contact. And also on the company side, as you said perfectly, is being able to articulate what that client does to potential candidates is really strong. So for example, if it's like I don't know, an e-navigation platform or a vessel performance solution, whatever it might be, being able to say to a candidate that maybe is either in shipping, maybe they're on the chart, they're a former charterer or they're a former broker, they may not quite be used to what the ins and outs of a vessel simulator is, that type of thing. But if we can describe what the platform does, describe sort of the value it can give to the end user, which might be the ship owner or whatever, just means we have a better conversation with the candidate, and therefore they're more likely to be better qualified to actually kind of join that potential client. And it just speeds up the whole hiring process, and just makes us feel a bit more vested in clients we work with, because we kind of do have a good, most of the time, a good understanding of what they do. But yeah, don't hold me to that. Most of the time we do. Okay, cool. So now, what's it been like today? Obviously, we're 3 and a bit months in or so since you joined. What's it been like, the transition into, like, how you perceived recruitment to what it's like now, to what the day to day is like?
yeah. I mean, it's probably as I imagined it. To be honest with you, but it's been, yeah. I think I'm trying to choose my words here, because you've helped me an awful lot, and you've spent a lot of time, you know, fast tracking me, getting me up to speed on the recruiting processes, and I think without that, it would be a different story. In fact, I'm certain it'd be a different story. You know, so I think thanks to your training actually and your time, you know, put in, it's been a good process, and I've learned a lot very quickly. But yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoying it actually, and I'm so pleased, you know, and grateful for the opportunity.
Awesome, good. Well, I appreciate that. It's been a pleasure. Yeah, I think the shipping recruitment world is really interesting. It's very fast paced. It's very competitive, like similar to broking. Obviously, we try and really carve out a bit more of a niche and really focus on the maritime technology arena, in particular, sort of sales, like mid to senior level hires. That's our core kind of focus. But obviously, we also kind of lean more on our experience and help companies hire, for example, research analysts, shipbrokers as well, vessel operators, that type of thing. But the main focus day to day is the tech side,
Yeah,
and in particular the go to market side. So anything from mid to senior level sales, up to head of sales, CROs, CCOs. We've hired CEOs even, that type of thing. So it's been a interesting journey, and I would say the markets. I've talked about this recently as well, and you know, Matt, you've come into the market, I would say, in quite a difficult spell. In terms of the hiring activity in the shipping tech space, I think there's a number of. I'll talk about this. Actually, we will mention this. We're obviously sponsoring the Digital Progress event hosted by Binnacle that's coming up on the 15th of May in London. We'll be attending and going to give a little short talk about kind of how to attract and in particular retain like top sales personnel in the maritime technology space. And so much of it is going to tie into what we're seeing day to day is just there's fewer companies, I'd say, because there's more consolidation going on. So you've got the bigger companies like Vesson and Kepler and these other businesses that they kind of had making a big kind of play in terms of talent. And I would say there's more available talent out there that are kind of like looking around, but where do they go? They either go to one of these bigger companies or they go to maybe a startup company. So hopefully our conversation can give some of those kind of businesses that have been around for a number of years, or maybe they've just started up and they want to attract the best sort of experienced professionals. Hopefully we can sort of share some insights into that. And I'm going off on a bit of a monologue here, but that's what we'll talk about. So other than that, Matt, I think anything else you'd like to go through? I mean, day to day as a recruiter, obviously, what type of markets are you mainly focusing on, and type of people you're trying to help kind of find roles for?
Yeah, well, I think you sort of you touched on that a moment ago, but essentially, yeah, the sort of technical side, whether it's the sort of software or data side, we're talking to the commercial side of shipping as well, and whether that be the sort of ship owners or the brokers. But yeah, day to day is very much again, like broking, it's just on the phone as much as you can possibly be, building those relationships up and pushing forward really to try and add value where you can. And I think actually add value is a great two words there, because as a broker, that's what you was trying to do, was add value. As a recruiter, all we're trying to do is just add some value and make life easier really by sort of streamlining the process and sort of getting the right person for the right role.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, cool. And just a little bit on, if someone's maybe thinking about making a career change or is actively looking for something new, from what you've learned so far, what type of things do you tend to look for if you have a vacancy, or if you're just kind of speculatively reviewing profiles? What type of things do you look for in kind of candidates, whether it's their CV or on their LinkedIn? Anything in particular sort of stands out to you?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, if a candidate, for example, is sort of been within a company for longer than a couple of years, and you can see that they've maybe got promoted, and essentially they're good at what they do, and the company appreciates them. They're obviously good at their role. That's one key aspect I would look for, is relevant sort of position but also doing that position with a company for a sort of set amount of time as a minimum. What would you say, Callum, when you're looking?
Yeah, so obviously it depends on whether. So our focus is finding that missing link between a lot of our maritime technology clients, or even ship owners or ship brokers. 9 times out of 10, they ask for people with relevant experience. So they've either worked in maritime software sales before, or they've worked on they've got a naval architecture background or marine engineering, that type of thing, or chartering or shipbroking. So we tend to connect that piece of experienced maritime professionals with whether it's sales, whether they need to be a hunter or a farmer or they're a product manager, that type of thing. So first thing I look at is I just go straight to the CV or the profile, and I think, cool, what's their job title? Okay, so excellent. They're a sales director now. I look at the company as like, okay, so is it a relevant company to what our client might be? There's this space. Is it a competitor? Is it a similar type of company? If it's not, maybe it's still software. Maybe, for example, it's more of a supply chain logistics company as opposed to a maritime, more focused day in, day out type of company. So I look at their job title. I look at, like, as you said perfectly, is how long they've been there. It's never too great if you see people jumping around after sort of 8-9 months. It's obviously fine if it happens once or twice or so, because not every role is right. I've done it in the past. But if there's a consistent pattern of kind of being somewhere like just under a year or a year, then moving on, as you go up in experience, the senior decision makers will start to think, well, are they going to join us and leave us after a year if things aren't right? So 10 years is a huge thing. And then it's just really like the role. It's like, if you look at their pattern of development, is if they're a sales director, like a business development manager, for example, you will kind of want to see that earlier in their career, they've been, I don't know, doing some sort of telesales or an SDR or some sort of, even if it's not shipping, some sort of, deal generating type of role, commercial role. Whereas if they kind of come from like operations or analysis and a lawyer, and now they want to be like a BD director, you're like, well, talk to us about what's your average deal size that you've done, what type of client, how many new clients have you onboarded over the last couple of roles. They won't be able to answer those questions. So yeah, it's just a case of kind of making sure that the roles you're going to, like applying for, you kind of, they fit where your main experience lies. And obviously if you want to change career, then that can still be fine. So having that laid out clearly in a CV with key achievements is really important to see. But yeah, otherwise, mainly for me is job title, tenure, the companies they've worked at, and then, shouldn't say this, to a lesser extent, the education, depending on what the role is. So if it's a business development hunter type of role, you might not need a degree in whatever, like mathematics for that. But if you've got the right character, then those things can be less or more relevant depending on the situation. Okay, cool. So hopefully that's helpful to people. And as I said, we look at CVs every day, like sometimes hundreds, and it depends on the role you're looking for. Obviously, it would be very different. Okay, so as far as for you personally, going forward, like let's sort of shift away from the recruitment side. But before we wrap things up, any kind of main hobbies and things that you like to do? I think I've got a feeling you're going to say one of them. But anything, any passions or interests that you like? Maybe people may not know about you.
Well, I for all my sins, I do follow Tottenham Hotspur.
I didn't think you were going to say that.
Oh, what did you not? Oh, going to the pub maybe as well. Was that something?
Okay, closely linked. Yeah.
No, but I follow football, but I'm a dad of 2 kids and happily married, and a lot of my time actually is spent with the family. And the kids are getting to an age now where they're starting to go to a lot of sort of parties, and I've got an 8 and a 4-year-old, and there's clubs, and so the freedom slowly disappearing for me, and I'd love to get down the golf course more, and but yeah, it's just finding time, to be honest with you.
Yeah, good. I thought you were going to say cooking. I thought that was one of your.
I do love cooking. I do love cooking. Yeah, no, I do. I'm a massive foodie. Actually, I do really enjoy cooking. It's a good point. Thank you.
No, cool. You keep mentioning all the nice meals you're rationing up or cooked over the weekend and things. So, all right, Matt. Well, no, really, really great to have you on. And obviously, going forward, you'll be on the show. You'll be speaking to guests and things. So it'd be really nice. It's a good opportunity for people to hear a bit more about your background now. So I mentioned that we're going to obviously be at the event on the 15th of May. So it's still very much available for people to register. I'll add a little link to the show notes, and when we share this on LinkedIn for people to log on and have a look at that. But for now, this is the end of our season. Is it season 3 or season 2? I think it's end of season 2 of the show. So we'll be back in a few weeks. We're going to kind of make a few adjustments, obviously line up our next sort of string of guests. And then hopefully going forward, start to have a few little live events. So Matt and I can go on live. People can log in like a webinar sort of style, ask questions, and we can talk about what's happening in the market or any particular live vacancies we have. We can kind of articulate them a bit better than perhaps just sending a LinkedIn message out like we do. For now, Matt, thank you so much. Really, really real pleasure to get to know you a bit more, even on here. And thanks for tuning in, everyone. Please do follow, like our channel, click the little review button if you can. And we'll speak again soon.
Thank you.